counties or those cities to do this. Here's what to think about so they can really deliver that change on the ground. You mentioned your nonprofit, and I wanted to ask you about that too, because I think we have something else in common. Are you referring to your group? I think it's called Rising Leaders.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm so impressed that you know the name of my nonprofit. So after at the time that I was at the law firm, some friends and I got together and we said we had to do something that we didn't have when we were growing up. So we co-founded a nonprofit called Rising Leaders that teaches professional skills to underserved middle school students in Harlem, in Seattle, and in Washington, D.C. And these are we do workshops nearly once a month on a Saturday. These are underserved middle school students all throughout the country who are incredibly talented and have such tremendous potential, but who maybe don't have the same financial resources that other students have all throughout this country in wealthier school districts. And so we want to make sure that we work to bridge that divide, so to speak, to close that gap in opportunity, to make sure that everyone can realize their full potential. And so we teach financial literacy. We do mock interviews. We do public speaking workshops. These are professional skills that are sorely needed in our society, and that traditional public schools don't teach very well.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And the reason I was excited about this was that in college, I went to Yale and I taught through a program called US Grant. It's over 50 years old, and it provides enrichment activities to middle school kids from the New Haven Public Schools. And this won't surprise anybody who's seen my whiteboard videos. I taught math. And so really had a great time with those kids and did it a couple summers and throughout my time at Yale. And it's really great. Some of those kids have found me again now that I'm more of a public life, and they've written to me and I'm hearing about how they're doing. And that's just really important because we don't start life on equal circumstances. I think it's really important that we all try to step up and provide that enrichment in middle school. And I say this to you now as a mom of a 14-year-old who just graduated 8th grade, and the mom of an 11-year-old who's starting middle school next year. It's such an important time when role modeling and opening up people's opportunities and giving them self-confidence really, really matters. So for me, that was self-confidence in algebra. For you, it's all these professional skills that kids need. But it takes, I think, Mondaire, a special kind of energy to be able to want to hang out with middle school kids. And the fact that you and I both love 6th and 7th and 8th graders, I think that's good training for Congress, by the way, because those middle school kids are easy peasy compared to working with some of the challenges that we face in Congress. If you're just joining us, I'm Representative Katie Porter, and I'm talking with Mondaire Jones from New York 17th, and just thrilled to be supporting him, endorsing him, and helping him win and become the next congressperson from New York 17th District, where voting is already underway, and can't wait to be celebrating with you on Tuesday, June 23rd, on Election Day. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your mom, if you were willing to do that with me. I am a single mom. I'm the only single mom right now of young kids who's serving in the U.S. Congress. So 535 members of Congress.
Wow.
Lots of single moms out there in the world, juggling, trying to make ends meet, trying to figure out childcare. And yet in Congress, we have one. And my story as a single mom is different from that of so many others. It's not a monolithic group. But I know that your mom had some real challenges in raising you. And I wondered if you could share a little bit about her story, because I think it's both really inspiring, but also really part of what you're going to be bringing to Congress is what you saw her dealing with growing up and what you want for other kids.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity, because there have been people in my district who are trying to figure out what the differences are between the candidates. And I've said, I am running for Congress because for me, policy is personal. I grew up in Section 8 housing and on food stamps, raised by a young single mom who, like so many incredible women all throughout my district and all throughout this country, still had to work multiple jobs just to be able to put food on the table for us, even with the government assistance that we were receiving. So I know firsthand that when we talk about things like a $15 minimum wage being necessary at the federal level, that is an absolute need that needs to be realized in the form of policy. And it's not just this academic or abstract idea, but it is something that I have perceived and felt from my own lived experience to be something that everyone deserves in this society and everyone needs in this society.
Yeah. And I'm sure your mom with working multiple jobs and trying to raise you, childcare is always a real challenge. And so we've heard a lot of people say, boy, it's really hard to juggle during the pandemic. And I sort of laughed because like, you weren't juggling before? Because I sure was. As a single parent, like it's a constant juggle. I'm so grateful out there for all of the amazing childcare providers and teachers and others who are there for our kids. And I hope that people during this pandemic are, instead of feeling sorry for themselves, are trying to enjoy the time with their kids and remembering there are lots of folks out there every day who can't afford childcare, who are having to take their kids to work. And I've had to take my kids onto the floor of Congress. I've had to take phone calls from my kids in the middle of hearings and step out and do that juggle. But it's really hard to do if you're working in a job where your employer is not accommodating, when you can't afford childcare. When childcare and housing are eating up your entire budget, then there is no money left for food. Like you say, there is no money left for medicine. There is no money left. So shout out to your mom for producing an amazing son. And I have to say, as a single mom myself, I'm always really heartened when I meet these other amazing people who were raised by single moms, because I'm like, maybe my kids will turn out. Like there's hope. Like I could be raising, the next amazing Mondaire Jones. Angie Craig, one of my fellow candidates, was raised by a single mom. And so it's great to hear that story. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about a couple of the issues that you're working on that you think you want to focus on when you get to Congress.
Yeah, the environment is my number one priority because, as you know, if we don't have a planet that we can inhabit, the other stuff that we talk about doesn't matter so much. And so here's an opportunity, as you well know, as we are passing coronavirus response legislation. We know that the 40 million plus jobs that were lost over the past approximately 10 weeks, not all of those are going to just reappear after we get out of this economic devastation. Let's invest in creating green jobs, green infrastructure projects, like a New Deal, essentially, specifically a Green New Deal. And so that's how I think we can really align the interests of folks who need immediate cash assistance, which we also need to be doing, by the way. That has to be a top priority as well. Giving people, what I support is $2,000 for every adult, $1,000 for every child. I know there are different proposals going around, but this idea of a one-time $1,200 check for a subset of the American people is such a slap in the face for most Americans, certainly the ones in my district where it is extremely expensive to live in Westchester and in Rockland counties. And so those are my, I would say, my top two priorities. I'm the only candidate in my race who believes and supports adamantly Medicare for all, even in the midst of a global pandemic where, like I just said, 40 million people have lost their jobs. I'm the only candidate who supports my Congresswoman's position, and she signed on to Pramila Jayapal's bill in 2019 and also to John Conyers' bill to 2017. So it is kind of scary that I'm the only candidate in this race who supports that, and I've been messaging that, and I know you say that Medicare for all is helped you win your election, and I think it's important to be clear on that, because a lot of people think that, well, it's a divisive issue. Healthcare for everybody doesn't have to be divisive. We should be speaking with moral clarity about the need for that, and also the economic benefits of it.
Absolutely. And I think, Reading and Orange County, I was the progressive in my primary, and there were a lot of people who said, oh, you can't take that position or this position. But the reality of most people is they understand that our current system of healthcare isn't working very well. And if you have private insurance today, look what your experience is. You're paying thousands of dollars over the course of a year, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. Your employer is paying that much or more, and yet your claims are denied. You can't find a provider, particularly with mental health. Huge problem with mental health coverage, all being out of network and being undercompensated. And so surprise medical bills, something that happened to me when my appendix burst when I was on the campaign trail last year. And so it's just, I think the real life experience of healthcare is, as a consumer, I'm paying for this insurance, but I'm not getting the coverage, and I'm left paying out of pocket for so many things. So, you look at people's out-of-pocket maximum or even their deductible, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000. That deductible is completely out of reach for most people. So that out-of-pocket maximum is completely out of control. And so I think that's one of the big reasons that we need to go to a Medicare for All system. And so I think just being honest with people about the shortcomings of the existing system. And so I think that's a really helpful frame to put on it. And then also, as you mentioned, it's good for our economy. So many entrepreneurs, so many potential entrepreneurs who are stuck here or there because of concerns about healthcare. So many families now who, we used to think about 21 as a big birthday or 18 as a big birthday. Now it's 26 because you lose your parents' health insurance, right? And so we really need to, I think, move to a Medicare for All system. And I think it's something that will not only help you win, but it's, like you said, it's the moral clarity. It's the right thing to do. We can debate how and when to get there. And we have to be honest, too, that we need to strengthen Medicare and address some of the shortcomings of Medicare as we go about moving to Medicare for All, including reimbursement rates that are often too low, especially in high cost of living areas like New York City or Orange County. But we can do that. We can strengthen Medicare and expand it. So I'm so glad you have that position, and I'm excited to have you joining us in that fight. You've had a ton of amazing endorsements, and I just want to tell you how exciting it is for me to see a number of people stepping up and leading. I think it's really important that none of us who got there in 2018, none of us who were progressives, who flipped Republican seats, a lot of people forget Elizabeth Warren got to the Senate by beating a very popular Republican.
Yes.
She too flipped a seat. And so I think
was in
it's
law
really,
school at the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, so I think oh, you were there at the time that she
I was there.
won?
I remember going to that debate against Scott Brown in Boston, and voting for her in the primary because I was a resident of Massachusetts at the time.
Yeah. What years were you at Harvard?
I was there from 2010 to 2013.
Okay, you could not have taken my class, but I was teaching there from, let's see, I think it was 2010 to 2011,
Wow.
but I was teaching bankruptcy law, and so I think you probably would have been a first-year law student. So we could have crossed paths then, but I'm so glad we have now. It's so great to be talking with Mondaire Jones, the amazing candidate for the New York 17th District. With election coming up in just 4 days, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me. I'm really excited. Any kind of help that you need, what can people be doing? I'm seeing lots of love on this Insta stream, lots of hearts popping up for you and feeling the same way. What do you need from us to be successful, both in this primary and then in sailing all the way to November and then ultimately being the amazing legislator that I know you're going to be?
Thank you for that. That means a lot coming from you. Look, I encourage everyone to go to my website, mondaireforcongress.com, MONDAIREFOR, Congress.com. Please sign up to volunteer. We are phone banking. We make tens of thousands of phone calls every single day. Not everyone answers, but it's a volume game. And there are 24% of voters, Democratic voters in this district, who plan on voting, but they are undecided. We have to get a substantial portion of that undecided vote to maintain the lead that we have in the polls, because people are trying to do crazy things in this race right now, not least of which is buy this election. And so we've got people. That has always been our advantage. We have a message and we have people. We are a people-powered campaign. We don't take corporate PAC money, and we can't self-fund if we wanted to, but we wouldn't, because it is a distortion of a democratic process, small d democratic process, and that's just not how we roll around here. But it does mean that I need you to phone bank for me and to send text messages. And if you live in Westchester or Rockland counties, or you know people who do and they're registered Democrats, please, my God, call them up, text them, put them all in a group text, send them an email, refer them to my social media, let them know that they should be voting for the only progressive champion, the only champion for working people, who has a darn good shot of getting elected on Tuesday with their help. It is going to be vote by vote that we win this thing.
Yep, and absolutely. I just encourage people, phone banking, getting engaged like that, an hour, 2 hours, it really makes a difference. And, these elections are often won by turnout. They're won by turning out people who maybe will stay home if they're not pushed a little. So pick up your phone, have some fun, help Mondaire. You're going to feel better afterwards for doing it, and you're going to make our country a better place. And look, the challenges this country faces are serious with coronavirus, police brutality, lack of affordable health care, sky-high housing costs. The challenges are real, which makes it all the more important that we bring a real champion to Congress to help with these problems. I just want to close, Mandir, by talking a little bit about why diversity and representation and these voices matter. We've talked a lot about your life experience, about your mom, who, you know, your single mom growing up, having trouble working multiple jobs, trying to take care of you. Talk a little bit about like what you bring to the table as a diverse candidate, and even more important, diversity is not about checking a box. It's about changing the world. So can you talk a little bit about how you would do that?
Absolutely. You know, I tell folks all the time, I'm not running for Congress to make history as the first openly gay Black member of Congress. But I've got to tell you, it is a powerful thing, representation. Growing up poor, Black, and gay, I never imagined that somebody like me could run for Congress, let alone be a leading contender to get elected to Congress. And if I had been able to look to someone quite like myself in the halls of power, it would have been direct evidence of the fact that things really do get better. It was a struggle for me to come to terms with who I am as a person. And I never imagined for most of my life, I'm 33 years old, for most of my life, I never imagined that I could ever run for office because I was afraid that people couldn't accept me for being gay. And so to see the changes in our electoral process and our politics over the past several years alone has been really inspirational. And I'll tell you that seeing representation helped me to come out. You know, there was a show called Noah's Ark, and it was the first time I had seen Black gay men in loving relationships on TV. I just never imagined that. And of course, when Frank Ocean revealed that so many of the songs on his album Channel Orange were devoted to another man, I mean, those things helped me to feel comfortable in my own skin. And as I read so many letters and DMs on Twitter and Instagram and elsewhere from people young and old who say that they are inspired and they have been given courage from seeing me run as an openly gay Black candidate, I know that we're changing hearts and minds right now, and that we're even saving lives in the process. And of course, my lived experiences give me a sense of urgency that I would bring to Congress that not enough people, frankly, have in Congress or in my primary. There's so many challenges that we are facing as a society. And I'm not trying to be one of just 435 members of Congress. We need transformational leadership on so many questions, not least of which is racial justice. You know, it shouldn't take national civil unrest to get people to talk about criminal justice reform and policing reform. I'm proud to be a candidate, the only candidate in my race, who was talking about that from the beginning of this campaign. It's what I mean when I say we need more people in office for whom policy is personal.
That's so awesome. And I just want to say, Mandir, we don't just accept you, we champion you. And that's really the way I want everyone to think about that. So know that we're not just excited to have you. We are going to push you forward all the way through the finish line. So you are not just accepted by our society and by our country, you are championed by our society and by our country. So everyone get out there, go to Mandir for Congress, MONDAIRE, forcongress.com, volunteer, sign up. If you can chip in a few bucks to help Mandir, do it. I will tell you as a candidate, every dollar in these primaries really matters. Yes. I think people often think if I can only give $3, will it make a difference? Yes. It does. In my race, for every dollar someone gave, we could knock 2 doors. And for every dollar you give, it will help him make 10 phone calls. So know that whatever you can do to support Mandir, I'm going to appreciate it. Representative Katie Porter, I'm going to appreciate it. And Mandir's going to appreciate it. And best of all, the people of this country are going to benefit from having a voice like Mandir's in the Congress. I also just want to close by saying, I love how you say you're not just going to Congress to be another one of 435 members. You're going to go to Congress to be the very best member you can be. And I know you're going to work hard and be a powerful voice and show that courage and show that leadership and be that bold progressive, which is really what this moment calls for. So this was like such a delightful part of my day to get a chance to talk with you in between all the other things I have to do and folding laundry. It's just a delight to get to join with you. So thank you, everyone. Go to Mandir for Congress, and I'll give you, Mandir, the final word before we sign off.
Thank you again for your tremendous advocacy on behalf of people like myself and families like the one I grew up in. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have tuned in over the course of the past 30 minutes. You recognize that I'm not just running to represent the people in my district, but I'm running to give voice to anyone who has ever felt that government has never worked for them. Because I understand that to be true. And that's what I'm going to be fighting for. And if you fight alongside me these next 4 days, I promise that I will never stop fighting for you. Go to mondareforcongress.com, sign up to volunteer at the bottom of the homepage. Yes, if you're able to chip in whatever you're able to give, I promise you we are putting it to good use. We are making our final TV ad buy today. And it turns out that our TV ads are working. We're talking about my personal story, my qualifications, and the things that I stand for. And yeah, maybe a few cool endorsements that we've gotten over the past few months as well. Thanks again, everyone. And
I just want to say, Monday, you're going to be celebrating on Tuesday. So I want to close it out with a great image. People can screenshot this if they want. I want you to practice your victory fist. Like, this is where we're going. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Vote for Mondaire Jones on Tuesday, and we'll all get to raise our hands up in celebration. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.
Great.
It's not there. I was trying to get it. I thought it was not there.
Yeah, but hold on, I have to do something. They want me to.
I know you hating on me just cause you like my style. You know you hating on me, you know you like my style. I know you like my style.